Ed Sheeran lookalikes and creatures that attack the block ripped off. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Adam and today I've got my eye on another world. Now before I get into my impressions I'll just go into the options menu because while it offers difficulty modes and the cross save feature, this is a remaster of an old game, so there's options of the original soundtrack as well as the low resolution from how it looked back in the day. So this is the 20th anniversary edition of Another World. Ironically, it's now 23 years. But here we are, this is Another World. And for me, personally, it's about 15 years in the making. Because at an old car boot sale that I was at back in the early 90s, I came across a book for the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis, which was basically kind of a strategy guide of the first couple levels of select Mega Drive games, games like Sonic the Hedgehog and Streets of Rage and an X-Men game, I think. And one of them was Another World, or Out of This World as it was called in America. And I remember looking at the tab thinking, God, that looks so unique and so different from anything I've seen. But I never managed to find it in any shop, so I never got to play it. Now finally, after all these years, I now finally have the chance to do that. So what am I thinking then? Well, for one, I've already completed it because, as I'll get into, it's incredibly short. But I'm also gonna mention the differences in the different versions. I've completed it on the Vita, and this is the PS4 version now. In terms of actual differences, there isn't any really. If we're being honest, there isn't any. You're pretty much getting the same experience and the same feel for both, no matter which platform you play it on. But I will recommend that you play this on a console. Because of how the game plays, it feels more awkward on the Vita. Because there's about 4 different actions mapped to the X button, and there's a lot of running and jumping involved in it. And you have to hold down the X button, the directional buttons to run, but you have to press square in order to jump. And on the smaller buttons on the Vita, that feels much more awkward compared to the larger controller and buttons on the PS3 and the PS4. So I would recommend playing on the console, but it's not too big of a deal. But I would have liked the option to remap some of the buttons, especially the jump button. I would have preferred it on the Vita to be the left shoulder button, but that's just my preference. But I would have liked that option. So as we get into the game now, I admit on my first playthrough I was caught out. I didn't know when the actual game started and what was a cutscene. The next scene actually after this is where I did die previously, because I didn't know that it was actual gameplay. I thought, oh blooming heck, it must have started. So it's rather, and that for me that's a good sign, and it's something I'm hoping that the Order 1886 does well, is really blur that line between a cutscene and then gameplay, because you can kind of tell if you played a lot of video games, especially for games that are trying to go for a very story driven cinematic feel, you can sort of tell the difference. Now I'm just going to show you the difference in the graphics here. Just with the press of the triangle button you can see the difference between how it looked back in the day and the more smoothed out version of the game, and that adds that little bit more detail in. Now of course you can only kick at the moment. Oh crap, just been killed off already. There's quite a few decent little animations for your death and that, and you will see quite a lot of them because you will die a lot, and it's like I say, it's an incredibly short game. Even though I died about over 100 plus times in my first playthrough, it probably took no more than in total gameplay hours an hour, and if you're really good at it, if you only die a few times, it'll take you no more than half an hour. So it was incredibly short back in the day, but I think in fairness to the developer, it did take him about 2 years to make, and he was doing something that was very pushing the envelope, pushing the boundaries in terms of its graphic style and the type of gameplay it was doing, especially when there was no hub and no hand-holding really of any description. Although there is a slight element to that, which I'll get to later, and it revolves around the checkpoint system. Now, I'm just about to be attacked by the creature I was referencing in the intro, which was the creature that Attack the Block ripped off. For those that don't know, Attack the Block was this British sci-fi comedy movie. It's pretty good actually, and it was about an alien invasion on a London estate. And the when I was watching the behind the scenes stuff on the DVD for that, they said that they got their inspiration for the aliens in it by this game and that particular creature, which hence the little reference to the intro. Now, just as this cutscene goes in, I want to explain that, or point out that if you're a fan of the Oddworld games, then very much looking forward to Oddworld New and Tasty that I believe comes out later this month. I think this is a good little stopgap, a good little filler game for you to play because it reminded me very much of Abe's Odyssey in the sense they had a very much a unique art style. Um, there wasn't much in terms of handholding, although I'd say there was a little bit more of that, or at least a sense of it explaining some things and its mechanics to you in Oddworld. And there was also the whole mechanic of helping an AI character through hazard environments, which certainly Another World plays on that, and it was an whole integral part of the Oddworld games for those that would not have, for those who played it. Now, as you say, I've acquired this gun, and I'll get into now about the number of actions you have, which for as much as I complained about it being bound to just one button, there is a good sense of depth to the gun that you have. If you just hammer the X button, you do get a few blasts away, but if you hold down the button for a couple of seconds, you then end up creating these force fields, which becomes a critical gameplay point towards the end, where you have to put a multiple force fields to protect yourself from numerous enemies. And if you hold down the button for a few seconds longer, you then able to get off this pulse or shot, this super shot, as you see there. I'm putting up force fields now to protect us. But yeah, you do get like this super shot, which is used to destroy enemy force fields, or early on to break away walls to help you to advance. Now, I'll explain now about the checkpoint system, which for me has that just the one element of the game helping you out, that little bit of handholding. There's a certain point, which I'll explain when I get to it, where you reach a cave. Now, there's two ways basically you go, but the game doesn't point out which way you're meant to. Only really in a subtle way, and I'll get into that now. When I started, first played it, I went, you had two options. You can either go further into the cave, or you can head back towards the surface, and I headed back to the surface. And I made a bit of progress, but when I ultimately, inevitably got killed, it then spawned me right back to the beginning of the cave, and I thought it was a bit strange and a bit frustrating why it was doing that, considering that I died a few times earlier, and it respawned me just a few seconds from where I originally got killed. And after a while, and after a few failed attempts, I inevitably then decided to take the other option and go further down into the cave. And when I got killed down there, I ended up being respawned just a couple of scenes back, not right back at the cave. And that's when it clicks that it's actually the game's way of telling you that this is the way you're meant to go. Right, we're being fair with the checkpoint system, just as long as you're going in a particular way. So I'm glad that the game was designed in that way, that it doesn't, get you to a point where you basically can't get back to where you were meant to go, and it basically breaks the game for you. So it's a good little bit of design handholding. I'm not sure whether if that was in the original game, the original version of the game, or this is something that they've had to, you know, put in when they've re-released it, basically remastered it. But I have a feeling that probably from some of the reviews I've managed to dig up, I don't think that was the case. I think this was very much in from the start. Now this is the cave that I'm on about. Now before I was kept going towards the right, whereas as you can see here, this is my second playthrough and I'm heading further down. So yeah, like I say, I think that's a good little piece of design for not too much hand-holding, just enough to say, right, you're meant to head this way, off you go, and good luck. But yeah, like I say, I'm a fan of that. So I'll just wrap up my impressions here. After 15 years of waiting, it's never gonna reach any kind of expectation I had for it, and I think by the time I did play, I didn't have any expectations for it anyway. I just thought, oh cool, it's coming out to PlayStation. Right, and can't wait to try it. I've got to give a lot of credit to Eric Chai. I hope I've pronounced that right, probably not. Right, he did take him about 2 years to make this, so I really can't criticise him too much for the relatively short length. Because if he was going to go for, like a 2-hour experience, it was going to take him, you know, close to 5-6 years in this way. So, you know, you have to think of it like indie developer today trying to do an incredibly, you know, really pushing a unique graphics style. Although I think from a developer point of view, they probably have a lot more tools and technology at their disposal than what Eric Chai had going for him back in the day. But I think because of the little touch up in the remaster and just adding that little bit of detail, I think it still holds up. It has that rather minimalist, but very much has a sense of, no pun intended, another worldly feel to it, you know. And like I said, that's something that very much reminded me of the Oddworld games, because even in a 2D environment, it was able to give that sense of place. And I have to give a lot of respect to Eric Chai for what he's done. And the Digital Lounge, I think, who are the publishers, and I believe behind the remaster, they did say in an interview recently that they would consider doing a similar job to Eric Chai's game that he followed up after that, which was Heart of Darkness, which was another game that had a unique art style, and was another game that came out on PlayStation, but I never got around to getting it. So I would love to see that, but that would probably be a much more further down the road, because that was a longer game, and so it will take more time to do. But yeah, as I wrap up my impressions, I think Another World, especially if you're looking forward to New and Tasty, hopefully coming out later this month or maybe early August, this is a good stopgap, because it has very much some echoes of that, even though Another World predates Oddworld by about 5-6 years even. And you know, in a sense, it has a unique graphic style, and it has rather similar mechanics, especially trying to help an AI buddy. So yeah, it's very much thumbs up for me. So as I finish up, Another World's out on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita for what I believe £6.49 or your regional equivalent. My name is Adam, and I'll see you again real soon. Be lucky.